A man in a worn uniform strides into a hangar, facing public ridicule from a colonel who mistakes him for a washed-up celebrity. What no one realizes is that this man once flew top-secret missions across enemy lines, holding clearances that surpass those of most generals. The aircraft he's about to pilot was never meant to be seen by the public. After 3 days of silence, he's returning through the clouds to end careers, expose corruption, and reclaim the sky. The hangar lights buzzed faintly overhead, casting long metallic shadows on the concrete floor of Langley Air Force Base. A few dozen personnel were scattered around the briefing area, sipping stale coffee, their chatter low and lazy until he walked in. Keanu Reeves stepped through the main bay doors, clad in a weathered Air Force uniform. No insignia, no rank, just perfectly pressed regulation blues and boots that had clearly seen war zones, not wardrobe trailers. Heads turned. Someone whispered, "Is that?" Before the murmurs could settle, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Hey, this isn't Comic-Con, pal." All eyes swung toward Colonel Richard Holden, a tall, sharp-jawed man adorned with medals and a permanent sneer. He pointed directly at Keanu. "Take off that costume right now, actor. This is a restricted facility, not a movie set." Silence fell like a hammer. Even the air seemed to hesitate. Keanu didn't flinch. He stood still, hands relaxed at his sides, gaze steady beneath the brim of his service cap. "I'm here on authorization from..." Authorization from who? The Academy Awards. Laughter erupted, forced and nervous, from the cluster of junior officers behind Holden. Lieutenant Bradley Kane, barely 30 and already smug, pulled out his phone and began recording. "Hollywood thinks it can cosplay war heroes now," he muttered, loud enough to be caught on camera. Keanu's jaw tightened slightly. Then he inhaled slowly through his nose and gave a slight nod. "Understood." He turned without another word, walking away as phones clicked and snickers echoed through the hangar. His boots struck the ground with the calm, precise rhythm of a man who wasn't retreating but measuring distance. As the heavy doors closed behind him, Holden shouted after him for good measure, "Next time, bring popcorn, Keanu. At least then you'll be useful." Outside, the cold morning wind tugged at the edge of Keanu's uniform. He walked across the tarmac in silence, passing by the same aircraft he had once flown before the world knew his face. His phone buzzed in his pocket, an encrypted message. "Operation Phantom Sky is active. Target confirmed. 72-hour window approved." He looked up. The sky was wide open above Langley, blue and endless. They didn't know him, that was the point. 3 years ago, he had intentionally disappeared from military operations, becoming an actor and letting the world believe he was just another celebrity with a tragic past and a kind heart. Now they had mocked the wrong man in uniform, and in 72 hours, the same people who laughed would be standing at attention as he landed an F-22 on their parade. Outside the hangar, Keanu Reeves walked alone across the tarmac, the laughter still echoing behind him, distant now like the barking of small frightened dogs. His breath steamed in the morning chill, hands tucked into the deep pockets of his flight jacket. Each step was deliberate, quiet. The base hadn't changed much. Same paint-chipped barracks, same chain-link fences, but the people had forgotten. He pulled out his phone. No contacts, no apps, just a single blinking icon. One secure message from GhostNet. Ghost protocol activated. Operation Phantom Sky active. Target Colonel Holden. 72-hour window. Presidential clearance granted. Proceed. He stared at it for a beat, then deleted the message. No trace, no hesitation. Keanu slipped into the back of his 2015 Honda Civic. Nothing fancy, just reliable. That's what he needed right now. Stealth. No one could suspect that the man they just humiliated used to fly aircraft that didn't officially exist. 2 years ago, he vanished from the system. To the world, he became Keanu Reeves, Hollywood actor, kind soul, harmless. But to a handful of generals buried deep in the Pentagon's black budget programs, he was still Commander K-17, top-tier test pilot, covert asset, The only man to fly a Phantom Raptor during live enemy engagement and survive. The disguise had worked too well, apparently. He checked the mirror. A black SUV had been following him at a distance since he left the base. Standard surveillance. He let it follow, allowing them to believe he was just some washed-up actor seeking attention, but let them underestimate him. By noon, the video hit 75,000 views. The caption read, "When John Wick thinks he's a real pilot. #real pilots, only #diversity overload." Bradley Kane glowed with pride, showing the clip around like a trophy. I mean, come on. You let actors play with billion-dollar jets. This is what you get. Inclusion theater. His group chat. No quotas in the cockpit. Buzzed non-stop. Dude's delusional. That uniform was probably from Amazon. How long until he asks for a safe space? They didn't know that every single comment was being archived in real time. Not by Keanu, but by a Pentagon task unit, lawyers, cybersecurity officers, military intelligence. Every meme, every edit, every toxic word collected, tagged, time-stamped. Why? Because 3 months ago, someone inside Langley had flagged a pattern. Minority and female pilots consistently denied advanced hours. Flight simulators malfunctioning only when assigned to non-traditional candidates. Evaluations mysteriously deleted. Retirement orders pushed through without cause. All under one chain of command, Colonel Richard Holden. And now, thanks to Holden's public humiliation of a civilian guest, the trap was complete. Back in his apartment off base, Keanu sat at a small table, sipping black coffee. His phone buzzed again from General Morrison. "Need to see you. Denny's off I-64, back booth 1900 hours." He smirked. Morrison never said please. That night, under flickering diner lights, General Robert Morrison looked up from a stack of folders Keanu had slid across the table. "Jesus Christ," he muttered, flipping through the reports. "You've been documenting this since when?" "Since Langley assigned Holden command," Keanu replied. "And especially after he started purging pilots who didn't look like him." The general shook his head. "Sabotaged simulators, falsified psych evals." He was prepping the whole squadron to look clean for budget review. Keanu leaned back, fingers laced together. "I didn't come back just for justice. I want them to see it, all of them. I want it in the sky." Morrison studied him for a moment. "You're asking for public clearance to fly the Phantom." "Yes. Monday, Hangar 7, full audience. Let them see what real capability looks like. Without a uniform, without a quota, just flight." Morrison exhaled slowly. "Once you step into that cockpit, Reeves, they'll know everything. You can't disappear again." Keanu nodded, voice low but steady. "Good. I'm tired of disappearing." Outside, the wind had picked up. A storm was coming. But inside that old diner, something else was rising. Not vengeance, not rage, precision. Because in less than 48 hours, the same base that laughed at a man they thought was a joke would be silenced by the sound of power slicing through the sky. The lights were dim at the roadside Denny's just off I-64. Outside, rain smeared across the windows in slow, deliberate strokes. Inside, tucked in the farthest booth, sat General Robert Morrison, retired, unshaven, and wearing a faded leather jacket that didn't match his rank, but his posture was still military alert, still ready. Across from him, Keanu Reeves slid into the booth without a word. Morrison studied him. "You look like hell." Keanu half smiled. "Good. I need them to think I'm weak." The general leaned in, lowering his voice. "I saw the clip. Holden humiliated you in front of half the base." Keanu shrugged. "That's what we needed." He exposed himself. From under his jacket, Keanu pulled out a slim, worn folder. Morrison opened it and time stopped. Flight sabotage logs, medical reports, falsified performance evaluations. 17 names. All pilots from minority or female backgrounds. All discredited, pushed out, or quietly reassigned under Holden's command. Morrison's jaw tightened. "You've been building a case." Keanu nodded. 3 years. Every insult, every joke, every career destroyed. He tapped the last page. A mission summary signed with Holden's name, assigning a Latino pilot to a non-combat desk rotation, citing fabricated health concerns. Morrison closed the folder slowly. "You want blood, don't you?" "No," Keanu said quietly. "I want altitude." The general raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "I want a demonstration, live, Hangar 7, full base attendance. I want to fly." "You're serious?" "I want authorization to take up the Phantom Raptor. Let them see what a washed-up actor can do. I'll fly circles around their arrogance." Morrison hesitated. "Keanu, flying that bird live, that's not a show, that's a statement. Your face will be everywhere." "Good. They'll know who you are, K-17. Every Black Op, every classified mission you've flown, that curtain comes down." Keanu leaned forward, eyes sharp. "You think I don't know that? I've spent 2 years pretending to be normal. Drinking coffee, signing autographs, letting people think I'm just a guy who played John Wick. Meanwhile, Holden thinks he owns the sky." He paused. "I want it back." Morrison exhaled, then reached into his coat and pulled out a battered pen. He signed. "Authorization granted. Technical demonstration, advanced flight protocols. Pilot K-17 Reeves. Keanu J. Time. Monday 0800. Location: Hangar 7, Langley AFB. Audience: all personnel mandatory." He slid the paper across the table. "This ends Monday, for them and for you." Keanu looked at the signature for a long moment, then folded the paper and stood. "You know what they'll feel when I fly that Raptor." Morrison shook his head. "Relevance." Outside, the rain had stopped. The clouds split just enough to reveal the stars. Somewhere in a hidden hangar far from Langley, a jet waited. Its engine silent, its body gleaming, ready to carve justice across the sky. The facility wasn't on any map. No satellite tags, no perimeter fences. Just a stretch of Nevada desert that the wind had forgotten, baking beneath the silence. Deep below that scorched crust, buried in reinforced concrete and steel, was Hangar Omega, and inside it, the Phantom Raptor waited. Not a standard F-22. This one didn't officially exist. No serial number, no budget trail, no congressional oversight. It was built for only one pilot by one division under one condition. If it flew, it would never be seen. Now it would be seen by everyone. Keanu Reeves stood in front of it, hands in his flight suit pockets, eyes scanning every curve of the machine like a man reuniting with a dangerous lover. It shimmered under the halogen lights, stealth-coated skin, AI-augmented controls, magnetic exhaust suppression, and next-gen maneuvering tech, years ahead of anything flown in public airspace. It wasn't just fast. It was untouchable. "Still sure you want to do this?" asked Captain Tony Rodriguez, the only technician cleared to prep the aircraft. He leaned on a tablet, watching system diagnostics scroll in green. Keanu nodded slowly. Tony hesitated. "Once you power her up, your classified ID becomes public knowledge. You'll never disappear again." "I was never meant to disappear," Keanu replied. "I was meant to be quiet." "That's different." Tony approached the cockpit, running his hand along the fuselage. "You know they think you're crazy." "I know. They think you're just a method actor trying to be a soldier." Keanu smiled faintly. "Good. It'll make the silence hit harder when they watch me from below." Tony's expression turned serious. "You really think flying this will change things?" "No," Keanu said, "but it'll reveal them." In the control room, red warning lights blinked softly. Power flowed to dormant engines. Panels unlocked with a hiss of compressed air. The Phantom Raptor came alive. Not loud, not angry. Just present, like a predator stretching after years of sleep. Tony looked back once more. "You've still got time to back out." Keanu was already climbing the ladder inside the cockpit. Everything fit. His gloved fingers slid across glass-smooth controls, each one exactly where his muscle memory remembered. He synced his biometric signature. The HUD glowed with encrypted clearance. Pilot ID K-17. Authorization confirmed. Objective. Demonstration. 0800 Langley AFB. Keanu exhaled slowly, a long breath through the nose. Outside the canopy, the desert remained still. But in 48 hours, that stillness would be broken. They called him a prop, an actor playing war. But they'd forgotten something he never played. And this jet, this wasn't a performance. It was a reckoning with wings. The sky above Langley Air Force Base was washed in pale gold. The kind of light that makes everything seem still, like the world is holding its breath. Inside Hangar 7, rows of chairs were lined with exacting symmetry. Over 300 military personnel had assembled, all dressed in full dress blues, waiting for a demonstration none of them understood. The order had come late Friday. Mandatory attendance, new flight protocols, 0800 hours. No names, no context, just urgency. Colonel Richard Holden paced at the front, arms crossed. "Why wasn't I briefed on this?" he muttered to his aide. The young officer shrugged. "Sir, the directive came directly from the Pentagon, eyes only." Even base command was bypassed. Holden grunted. "Probably some bureaucratic tech showcase. AI flight garbage. Great. More toys flown by quota pilots." From the corner, Bradley Kane grinned, phone in hand. He'd already posted a story to his private Instagram. "Guess they're letting Hollywood try again. Can't wait for the blooper reel." At 7:45 a.m., a low hum began to rise over the tarmac. Most didn't notice at first, just a vibration in the concrete, a slight shiver in the air. Then the hangar doors began to open. A wind swept in, tugging at uniforms and papers, carrying something strange, a sound that didn't belong. It wasn't the scream of a fighter jet or the thunder of traditional engines. It was sharper, sleeker, unnatural. And then they saw it, a shadow carving across the sky like a blade of light. The Phantom Raptor. It moved in a way no one had ever seen. Not a single vibration, no sonic boom. Just velocity and intention, like the air parted for it in reverence. Gasps erupted. Some reached instinctively for their phones. "What the hell is that? That's not a standard Raptor. Is it even real?" Holden's eyes narrowed. "No one authorized that aircraft. Who's in the cockpit?" His aide didn't respond because they all knew in that instant they were about to find out. The jet descended with chilling precision, its trajectory perfect to the millimeter. Not 1 inch of wasted motion. It touched down like a ghost returning to Earth, taxied forward toward the hangar. Every pair of eyes was locked on the canopy. The engines cut. Silence returned, but it wasn't peaceful. It was charged. The cockpit opened, and from it, Keanu Reeves emerged. No helmet, no smile. Just the same worn uniform and the steady gaze of a man who knew he'd been buried alive and climbed out. Murmurs swept the crowd. "No, that can't be him." He was just. Keanu stepped onto the tarmac, every stride a metronome of composure. Then, from the hangar's loudspeakers, a voice echoed. "Personnel of Langley Air Force Base, prepare to meet the pilot you dismissed, the man you mocked." General Robert Morrison stepped into view. The one person on this continent cleared to fly that aircraft. The silence before the storm had ended. Now came the reckoning. The hangar was dead silent. Not the respectful kind of silence, but the stunned, paralyzed kind. 300 officers and enlisted personnel stood frozen, their polished boots rooted to concrete, their eyes fixed on the man who had just flown an aircraft none of them had clearance to even touch. General Robert Morrison stepped up to the front of the hangar floor. His voice cold and precise. "You are about to hear from the only man in the United States military cleared to operate the Phantom Raptor, a platform that, until 15 minutes ago, none of you knew existed." He turned to Keanu and nodded once. "Commander." Keanu took the microphone. No fanfare, no script, just presence. 3 days ago, he began, his voice steady, low, and measured. "I was called a fake, a pretender, a man in costume." His eyes scanned the room, they didn't blink. "What most of you didn't know is that I've spent the last 2 decades inside the most classified operations this country has ever launched. My call sign is K-17. I've flown missions in airspace that doesn't exist, tested weapons that haven't been acknowledged, neutralized threats that were never reported. He paused. I disappeared from the system intentionally. My public face became a mask, an actor, a distraction. Also, I could observe what happens when people like you think no one is watching. And what I found. Keanu turned slowly, locking eyes with Colonel Holden, who had gone visibly pale, was arrogance, abuse, sabotage, and cowardice masked as command. On cue, the massive screen at the rear of the hangar flickered to life. Image after image began to roll. Holden laughing with subordinates while reviewing falsified evaluations. Bradley Kane posting clips mocking quota hires on Instagram. A table full of minority pilots who'd been quietly forced out. Then military records, paper trails, forged documents, evaluation scores changed, retirement orders manipulated. 23 names, service members whose careers had been quietly destroyed under Holden's command. Keanu let the images speak for themselves. The silence in the hangar was no longer shocking. It was shameful. He looked back.